still contain a man. Ladies, there comes a time, not out of spite, not out of pride, but out of sacred self-respect, when you stop contacting a man. Not because you're trying to teach him a lesson, but because you finally learned yours. When you stop texting, stop checking if he saw your story. Stop wondering why he's distant. Something divine begins to unfold. You reclaim your peace, your time, your energy. You stop handing the pen to someone who doesn't know how to write your kind of love story. This isn't about playing games. This is about calling back every piece of your soul you've scattered on the wrong battleground. It's about realizing that the silence you give him is not punishment. It's protection. Protection from another round of confusion. Protection from the illusion of hope. Protection from another breadcrumb of attention when you deserve the whole meal. See, when a woman stops contacting a man, she's not giving up. Oh no, baby, she's growing up. She's no longer the girl who thinks closure comes from a text or clarity from a call. She's the woman who knows closure is internal, that silence is a complete sentence, and that walking away without a word can be louder than any dramatic exit. Let's be honest. When you stop contacting a man, there's fear. Fear he won't come back. Fear you'll look like you didn't care. Fear that maybe, just maybe, you weren't enough. But here this silence isn't a question, it's an answer. It's not proof you didn't care, it's proof you finally do. About yourself. The woman who walks away without chaos, without throwing verbal grenades, without begging for crumbs. That's a woman who has risen. She's shed the need for approval like old skin and stepped into a quieter, stronger version of herself. And if he comes back, that's not an open door, it's a gate with a lock. And the key, it's called standards. Because this time, you're not building bridges for someone who only ever brought matches. So, to the woman who's stopped reaching out, who's tempted to break her silence just to feel something, pause, breathe, sit in that discomfort, let it purify you. Because healing is rarely comfortable, but it's always worth it. You are not heartless. You're just finally being whole. You're not bitter. You're just no longer willing to settle. You're not mean, you're mature. When you stop contacting a man, you don't lose him. You lose the version of you who thought she needed to win. You stop reaching out. You're not being petty. You're practicing peace. You're stepping out of the emotional tug of war and standing firm in your worth. And sometimes the loudest message isn't shouted. It's whispered in the quiet choice to let go. We live in a world that romanticizes overexertion. That praises the woman who keeps texting first, keeps asking, "Are you okay?" Keeps showing up even when he's emotionally absent. But what if I told you that real strength isn't in the reaching? It's in the releasing. You see, when you stop reaching out, it doesn't mean you've stopped caring. It means you've started caring for yourself more. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Wisdom is knowing when your effort is no longer being honored. It's knowing that love should never be one-sided. You're not here to entertain inconsistency or to beg for breadcrumbs. You were created for connection, not confusion. Silence isn't passive, it's active. It's intentional. And it takes more courage to be quiet than to plead for attention. It's not about ghosting or giving someone the cold shoulder. It's about stepping out of a cycle that keeps draining you. Because what's the point in constantly reaching out to someone who only responds when it's convenient for them? stopping your pursuit doesn't make you bitter. It makes you balanced. It means you've taken the time to recognize that your energy is sacred and you refuse to invest it in places that return nothing but doubt. And let's talk about the word petty, because that's the label they'll try to place on you. That you're cold, playing games, doing too much. No, you're not being petty. You're preserving your peace. You're no longer arguing to prove your worth. You're no longer waiting for them to get it. Because if they couldn't see your value when you were showing up fully, they won't suddenly appreciate you after one more message. There's a special kind of fire in a woman who no longer feels the need to explain her silence. She's moved past the stage of over-explaining, overthinking, overcompensating. Now she sits quietly, not in defeat, but in dignity. She understands that peace is a language, and sometimes when words have failed, silence will translate everything her heart needs to say. You're not playing hard to get, and you're hard to forget, and that difference matters. Because the moment you stop reaching out, things shift. Not always externally, but definitely within you. You begin to realize how much emotional space they took up, how much you were willing to compromise just to keep the connection. And now, in your stillness, you can finally hear your own thoughts, your own heart. You're not walking on eggshells anymore. You're walking in alignment. Stillness isn't a lack of emotion. It's emotional clarity. It says, I've said enough. I've done enough. Now I'm choosing me. And here's the part most don't tell you. Silence doesn't just send a message. It reveals one. If someone truly values you, your absence will echo. If they were just entertaining your energy, they'll move on to the next source. And that truth, it stings. But it also sets you free, because once you've mastered the art of not chasing, you've stepped into a whole new level of healing. You begin to trust that what's meant for you will not require you to abandon yourself to keep it. That love, the real kind, doesn't have to be begged for. It flows naturally, freely, faithfully. So don't second guess your silence. Don't let guilt drag you back into old patterns. This is your time to protect your peace like it's priceless, because it is. You've been through too much to let your heart keep knocking on a closed door. Let that door stay shut. Better yet, build a new one with locks, standards, and boundaries. Because stillness is not the absence of love. It's the presence of self-respect. And the woman who learns how to be silent with strength, she becomes unforgettable, not because of what she said, but because of what she didn't say anymore. There's a sacred power in choosing not to chase. A quiet, yet thunderous kind of strength. Because when you stop running after someone who doesn't see, doesn't honor you, or doesn't reciprocate, you're not losing. You're remembering who you are when you retreat, not in bitterness, not in spite, but in bold grace. It's a spiritual shift. It's not passive. It's not weak. It's the most courageous thing a woman can do. Because it means you've chosen yourself, even when the part of you that craves connection is screaming for one more try. Not chasing doesn't mean you stop loving. It means you've matured in love. You've realized that love without dignity is not love. It's dependence. And you were never born to be emotionally dependent on someone who keeps you guessing. You were born to live fully, love freely, and walk away firmly when your peace is on the line. See, society tells women that if we just do more, give more, bend more will finally be enough to be chosen. But that's a lie. You don't have to chase someone who's aligned with you. The right connection doesn't need convincing. It sees your value from the beginning and honors it with consistency. So when you stop chasing, it's not because you gave up. It's because you woke up. You woke up to the truth that you were never created to prove your worth to someone distracted. That your softness is not an invitation for misuse. That your love, while deep and devoted, doesn't deserve to be taken for granted. There is grace in stepping back. Grace that says, I can love you and still walk away. Grace that says, I don't need closure from you. I'm giving it to myself. And grace that says, I can let go without losing myself in the process. Letting go is not the same as letting bitterness win. No, letting go is spiritual alignment. It's realizing your life was never meant to orbit around his validation, that his responses, or lack thereof, do not define your identity. Your healing is not tied to his return. Your clarity is not dependent on his change. When you retreat with bold grace, you're not disappearing. You're recalibrating. You're not punishing. You're protecting. You're giving yourself room to breathe, to reflect, to remember who you were before the waiting wore you down. And something beautiful happens in that space. The noise quiets. The self-doubt softens. The clarity rises. And for the first time in a long time, you realize that you don't miss him. You miss the version of yourself you became while waiting for him to see your light. But now you've turned that light inward. You're illuminating your own path. You're no longer begging someone else to walk beside you. You're walking with God, with strength, with stillness. And that's where your healing begins. Choosing not to chase is choosing to break cycles. It's choosing to say, this ends with me. No more reaching out to someone emotionally unavailable. No more silencing your needs to keep the peace. No more confusing crumbs for care. You were not made to survive on half love. You're learning that being alone doesn't mean being abandoned. It means you've made space for real love, real growth, real joy. Because when you stop chasing what's running from you, you start attracting what's rooted in you. And yes, it's hard. Your heart may ache. The silence may feel deafening at first, but that ache, that silence, it's making room. It's clearing space for something deeper, richer, healthier. You're not being punished. You're being positioned for better, for wholeness, for love that doesn't need to be chased. So stand in that sacred pause. Hold your head high. There's power in your poise, power in your restraint, power in your refusal to settle whether he notices or not, calls or doesn't, regrets it or replaces you. You stopped contacting him because you needed peace, not permission. And let's be clear, your boundaries aren't invitations for negotiation. They're declarations of emotional maturity. There comes a moment when the weight of waiting becomes heavier than the fear of walking away. That moment isn't loud. It doesn't always come with tears or drama. Sometimes it's a quiet click in your spirit that says, no more. And when that moment arrives, you don't text, you don't call, you don't explain. You simply exit mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because you finally understand that peace is not something he can give you. It's something you must protect for yourself. You didn't stop contacting him as a strategy. This wasn't about getting a reaction. You weren't playing a game. You were reclaiming your power, because peace is a choice. And sometimes the path to peace starts with silence. Let's be honest, he might not notice. Or maybe he does, but pride keeps him from saying so. He may regret it quietly, or he may replace you quickly. None of that matters. Why? Because your decision to stop reaching out wasn't about him. It was about you. Your healing, your clarity, your emotional safety. You chose to close the door not to punish him, but to free you. You didn't ask for his understanding. You didn't beg for his approval. That's growth. That's what happens when you outgrow the version of yourself who tolerated mixed signals and accepted excuses wrapped in charm. That's what emotional maturity looks like. It's not loud, it's not explosive. It's calm, it's collected, and it's clear. Boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They're bridges that define how someone can walk into your life and treat you. And when you stop contacting someone, that's a boundary. It's your soul saying, I will no longer chase what doesn't pursue me with intention. We are conditioned to believe that love should be proven through persistence. That may be if you just call one more time, if you just show up one more way, he'll get it. But here's the truth real love recognizes. It doesn't require you to shrink. It doesn't demand that you exhaust yourself to be seen. Real love responds. And if he didn't respond, if he let your silence stretch into days, weeks, months, then that is your answer. Silence always exposes what words try to cover. And if his silence echoes louder than your absence, that's not rejection. That's redirection. The woman who stops contacting isn't cold. She's conscious. Conscious of her value. Conscious of the fact that her energy deserves to be met, not merely tolerated. She has cried enough, questioned enough, explained enough. Now, she's choosing peace, not passively, but powerfully. Because here's the thing, peace isn't found in someone's attention. It's found in your alignment. When your spirit and your standards finally meet in agreement, something shifts. You stop needing their response to feel secure. You stop needing closure from the one who broke you. You close the chapter yourself with dignity. That's why boundaries matter. They are the line between self-respect and self-sacrifice. They're the sacred fences that protect your heart from repeated harm. And they're not open for discussion. Because when someone has shown you, time and time again, that they cannot honor your effort, your time, your soul, what's left to discuss? You stop contacting them not because you were trying to be difficult. You stop because peace costs too much to keep paying for chaos. And even if he never calls back, even if you never hear the apology, you've already won. You chose emotional maturity over emotional drama. You chose self-respect over self-doubt. You chose to let go of what was draining you, even if a part of you still loved him. That's the hard part, isn't it? Letting go while you still feel something. But that's also the real part. That's the growth. That's the sacred shedding. And on the other side of that silence, you'll find something even more powerful than love returned. You'll find you. So no, your boundary isn't up for debate. You're not asking for permission to protect your peace. You're not waiting for validation to choose what heals you. You're not pausing your worth for someone else to catch up. You're moving forward, not out of anger, but out of awareness.